Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Check 1 2. Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm up. Let me know if you can hear me now. Had a problem with the audio. I'm gonna back it up. When you can back it on up, back it on up. Let's back it on up, y'all. Since we live, we gonna back it on up. Watch this. Ryan T, yeah. Thank y'all. I appreciate that. Had a little problem with the audio. My bad. Come on back up in here. Like I said, I'm gonna back it on up. This is how you do it when you professional and you on top of your game, right? You can do it like it's supposed to be done, right? Check it out. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you guys what happened. Like I said, I told you guys, I seen the recent news involving the academics, and he said somebody, Jay-Z, not saying nothing about Megan Thee Stallion or Jay-Z anymore, based on whatever he said. There's a lot of people out here, like I said, doing great interviews, great content, capturing great interviews and things of that nature. But then on the flip side of that, there's people out here who are actually telling lies, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to watch what I'm about to do. And so now the video is back up. This video is so important. I understand why they tried to take it down. I understand why Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John tried to take it down. This video exposes the lie of all lies. And it basically forces you to ask a question, right? It forces you to ask the question. And the question is how did Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. know who had shot Tupac before anybody else? Right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the video right here. You can go look it up on my page. YouTube has put the video, reinstated the video, ladies and gentlemen. Based on the fraudulent copyright claim that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John has made, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize the importance of this video. Look at the title. Original footage exposes Reggie Wright Jr. shows he told his father first about Tupac and Suge. And I put liar, because that's what this video exposes Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John to be. A little bit of context, ladies and gentlemen. So, on the video, you hear 7 years ago, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. tell Gullible John that, when Gullible John asked him, well, when did you find out? He said 3 days later, 2-3 days later about what the situation was. But then recently he told his father in an interview involving some kind of award that his father got for being a police officer. His father came out and actually told the truth. Let me show you this. Check this out. So now, when we talk about the truth, here we go. So now, they filed a fraudulent copyright claim, trying to get the video taken down because the video reveals so much. It reveals Gullible John's complicit nature in knowing that Reggie had been lying to him, ladies and gentlemen. If somebody told you something 7 years ago and it's on tape and you were doing an interview with them, and then some years later they came out and they said something totally different, you wouldn't ask them, yo, you told me, this was this. So they filed a fraudulent copyright claim. I filed a counter notification. You said, Dear Straight Game TV, in accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, we've completed processing your counter notification. The following videos have been restored unless you have deleted them. You see the URL, right? So the video, this video right here, has now been restored, right? Let me show you. This is what they tried to do. This is what they tried to do. This is what was sent by Gullible John over at Bomb1st, trying to take my video down. Ladies and gentlemen, each and every day you have big channels like the Midas Touch and all of these other channels who come on and they use footage from CNN, ABC, NBC, right? And they comment on the latest news based on the Fair Use Act under the copyright law, right? Which is 107. I want you to understand something. You see, hi, a Straight Game TV. We received a copyright removal notice for your video based on the applicable copyright law, we remove your video from YouTube. Video title, the same title as the video that you just seen, that I just gave you the snapshot of, the URL. Content used, Reggie Wright Jr. on Tupac's plan if he lost his court appeal, A&E, Tupac special, and more, right? Content found for seconds, ladies and gentlemen, seconds. But guess what? Those seconds that I used, right, under the Fair Use Act of the copyright law, those seconds that I used are pivotal. Gullible John knows this because Gullible John knows that exposes that Reggie has been lying to him. And it exposes that Gullible John knows. He knows that he's been lied to, but he doesn't care because all they really truly care about is making money off of Tupac's name. You see the title of their channel, Bomb1st. Removal request issued by Bomb1st. You've seen it. And you see Gullible John's email, right? This means that your video can no longer be viewed on YouTube. You received a copyright strike. So I received a copyright strike. But once again, once I sent my counter notification dealing with the facts under the law, as we've seen Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John do over on their channel so many times, right? The copyright strike has been now lifted, right? So you have one, but the bigger picture, if you get multiple copyright strikes, we have to terminate your channel to prevent that from happening. Please don't upload videos containing copyrighted content that you aren't allowed to use. Ladies and gentlemen, under the law, let me tell you that I'm allowed to use it. But more importantly than that, I want you to do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and go watch this video. What they tried to do was they tried to slow the traction of the video down because they don't want the truth out. It reveals so much of what the lie was about. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get into a little bit more, but I want you to understand what they tried to do. This video is so important. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. tells Gullible John approximately 7 years ago, and he asked him explicitly the question, when did you find out about what happened and what was going on in the shooting? Mind you, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was not there, right? So you got to ask yourself a question. He tells John 7 years ago, I found about 2 or 3 days later, right? But in 2025, right, I use another clip of Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s father, right, whom I have nothing against, right? Nothing at all. Nothing but respect. Like I said, once again, I respect my elders, and his father has never said anything about me, to me, anything like that. So let's be clear about that. I want you to understand this, right? Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s father says that Reggie called me right soon after it happened and told me who was involved, who did it, and all of those things. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, how did he know? This video basically shows you that he lied. He lied to John when he said he found out 2 or 3 days later. And then his father came out and told the truth during this reception of an award that he was given from Seaside Police Department, right? And so as his father is talking, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. coughs, like, you know, somebody, if you saying something that you don't want nobody to hear, or they might be saying a little bit too much, then Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was like, you know, trying to get his father, but his father didn't pay attention because his father didn't have anything to lie about, right? You need to go and watch this video, push it out, tell a friend. If you've been watching the Tupac, anything that's involved with the Tupac murder, the conspiracy dealing with his murder, ladies and gentlemen, this is the video to watch because it proves that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had been lying since the beginning. Now, I want you to understand this. So this is what YouTube sent me, letting me know that the video was actually back up again based on my response and counter notification to the notification that they sent trying to get the video taken down. You know what I mean? I understand the law. I understand the copyright law very well. I know how to handle my business accordingly, ladies and gentlemen. But let me get to this. Check this out. I want to take you somewhere, and I want you to understand with this right here. I need you to really pay attention to what I'm about to do. So now, once you understand and you watch that video, you're going to be like, oh, damn. Like, how did he know? That's the one question that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has not been able to answer. Point blank, period. But let me move on. Let me show you this. So now, when we talk about being honest and being truthful, and being fruitful about what you say you are and how you say you are, right? Keefe D earlier this year went on the news and said that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Was the mastermind. Mastermind. Let me give you that. Let me give you that. Check this out. Here it is right here. Listen, I want you to understand, and I want you to understand. I'm going to go back to that in a minute, but I want you to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. People say, you got people getting online say, oh, it's a Reggie hate channel. No. Like I said, if the people who are familiar with this situation, they know that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Didn't know who I was, and because I was on the Art of Dialogue and we were spilling so much truth in regards to the Tupac situation, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., Gullible John felt like they wanted to try to capitalize off a little bit of that. Listen, Keefe D, this is a statement that came out from ABC News a couple of weeks ago, should I say. The accused killer went on to accuse Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., an ex-Compton police officer and former head of security at Death Row, of being the mastermind behind the murder of Tupac Shakur, labeling him and his security company mercenaries. Wright, who previously testified in front of the grand jury that would charge Keefe D with Tupac's murder, hit back at the claims, right? And like I said, because I do straight game, nothing but it, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. denied involvement. But I want you to pay attention to the quote that they got from him in making his statement. I want you to pay attention to that quote right there. See, he said, it bothers me because I was in charge. Listen to what it said. It bothers me because I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man. He said possibly. He said I was possibly protecting this young man. Is there any doubt that that was his job? This is a quote directly from Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Is there a doubt that that was his job? Once again, running from the responsibility of what that was. And so now you go back to the video that they tried to delete, right? Here it is in 2025. He said, it bothers me because I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man. But then he would tell Gullible John some 7 years ago, right, that I didn't find out until 2 or 3 days later. But then he would ask Frank Alexander to lie about the chain actually being snatched and Orlando Anderson trying to snatch the chain. It was a lie. Then his father would go on in that video that I'm telling you they tried to remove and basically state the truth as it was told to him. OG Patrice did a video and she asked Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. So when was it that you found out, how was it that you found, how soon was it found out? I found out because Suge told me. Ladies and gentlemen, Suge Knight came out and denied that. Not that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. didn't come to the hospital, but that he came to his hospital room and told him anything. There is no log in him saying, oh, I was at the hospital with Pop. No, there is no a record of Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. signing in. You know as well as anybody knows, when you go to a hospital and you go to somebody's room, they usually have you sign a visitor's list, a visitor's form, or some kind of log as to who and what and when and where came in and left the hospital, ladies and gentlemen, and who you're coming to see. So now, when he says it bothers me because I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't protect Tupac Shakur. I put the video out the other day with Frank Alexander and Michael Moore basically stating that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. removed security from Tupac's detail, ladies and gentlemen. That's why Frank Alexander was the only one on him. Point blank, period. But not only that, ladies and gentlemen, he said possibly, and I want you to, because the context and how this interconnects is very important. Watch this. So now, you see, Keefe D says what he says. But that's not even the most important part. I'm going to get to it. So now, just recently, we seen the interview done on the Art of Dialogue with Suge Knight. Suge Knight saying that he talked to Keefe D at the Lakers game when they played the New Jersey Nets. I listened to detail, right? On Vlad. I heard that somewhere before on Vlad TV a few years before when Keefe D was on Vlad doing an interview. Vlad had asked him, yo, you talked to Suge, you seen Suge, and Keefe D basically told the story about, I'd seen him at the Laker game and who the Lakers were playing and all of this other stuff, right? So now, it didn't seem like Keefe D and Suge had any kind of altercation. It was a public place, 20,000 people at the Staples Center, not trying to get into any kind of what's the name. But Suge Knight said that him and Keefe D had a conversation, and I believe that. Why? Because the situation was far removed now. People had lost their life. Pac lost his life. May he rest in peace. Orlando lost his life. May he rest in peace. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot had happened since then. And people can make amends. People cannot be as mad or whatever as they were one time before. But during the conversation that Suge Knight said that he had with Keefe D at the Staples Center, he began to tell him what really happened and why the situation took place in regards to what? The situation involving the murder of Tupac Shakur. Suge Knight said that Keefe D told him that he was paid, right, by Sean P. Diddy Combs. Allegedly, like I said, once again, all of these are allegations. People want to say what they say about Keefe. Oh, you lying. Ladies and gentlemen, there is somebody sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Las Vegas right now being charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur with gang enhancements. And his name is Keefe Dwayne Davis, ladies and gentlemen. So whatever anybody thinks about what Keefe D and all of the things that they try to imply and all the other scenarios that they want to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, there is somebody real life, real time right now sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Las Vegas and Clark County charged with Tupac's murder, being involved with the murder. And that individual, Keefe D, right, implicated Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Not only did he implicate Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., but during the conversation that Suge Knight said that he had with Keefe D at the Staples Center at this Laker game, Suge Knight said what? That Keefe D told him that security was involved and was part of the setup and agreed to be paid from that perspective. This is what Suge Knight alleged that Keefe D told him at the Staples Center. And a conversation that was confirmed, the meeting was confirmed through a video on Vlad TV. It was confirmed. Keefe D said it first. Suge Knight didn't say it first. Suge had been keeping all of this close to the vest. Like I said, people say, well, Suge lying. Like I said, I don't believe everything that Suge Knight says. Let's be clear. I don't. I'm sitting here, I'm listening, but this right here was confirmed by Keefe D also. So it lends credibility to what Suge was saying and what Keefe D was saying. Both of them said this. Just like when Keefe D said, when we rolled up on the BMW, me and Suge locked eyes, right? Okay. This is Keepy D basically in implicating himself in the murder of Tupac Shakur, ladies and gentlemen, despite what anybody thinks. But like I said, when we go back, listen, when we go back to this video right here, the ultimate question needs to be asked is, how did Reggie know to call his father and tell his father who was involved and all of those things when he did not know his father said it? But then 7 years earlier, he lied to Gullible John and said he didn't find out about the situation. See, once again, the first video is 7 years ago. That's the first question or that was asked in regards to Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. And when did he know? And when did he find out, right? And he said 2 or 3 days later. That's 7 years ago. But in 2025, his father's coming out basically saying at this conference, right? That, yeah, Reggie called me right after it happened. And said that not only did he say that, but he also said that he thought that Tupac was dead. So what that told me was he really didn't understand or know, and was basically saying that, reiterating to his father that he thought that Tupac might be dead at that particular time. He didn't even know, but he's saying that he knew, told him who was involved. You got to go watch the video. The reason they tried to take the video down because the video is so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. It connects the dots from day one on right after the shooting, right? We know that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. lied about the fact that Michael Moore said that he heard got him. He tried to place that somewhere else too. All of it, listen, he just right with lies. So I got something for you, and I want you to understand this, the context. Now, this is right after the shooting, right? He tells his father, he lies about that, tells Gullible John 7 years early. 3 years, I found out about 2-3 days later. His father comes out in 2025, said, no, Reggie called me right after it happened. Said that Tupac, he thought Tupac might be dead. So that would tell me, well, if he told him that, then he couldn't have been at the hospital, right? So he's telling his father this information. Listen, watch this. I got something for you. Watch this. So you seen right there, that's proof and fact. 3 different videos saying 3 different things about one incident. But I got something for you. Watch this. So now, let me take you to 3 days after Tupac passed away, ladies and gentlemen. May Tupac rest in peace, y'all. Like I say, may he rest in peace. Let me take you to 3 days after. And I just want to show you somebody who's supposed to be concerned. And remember what he said. Listen, remember what he said. No, let me show it to you again so that you understand where I'm coming from. Remember what he said when he said this. It bothers me because I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man, is what he said. He didn't protect Tupac. He failed him. But watch this. Y'all ready? I'm taking you 3 days after Tupac died. Y'all ready? Watch this. So we go here and we go here. Ladies and gentlemen, check this out. You see this? You see this right here? I want you to understand something. I want you to understand something and be very, very clear. Be very, very clear about this. Like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. I don't come to give you nothing but straight gain. I'm not speculating. I'm not telling you what I feel. I ain't telling you what I think. I ain't giving you my conspiracy theories. I'm giving you straight up and down facts with documentation over conversation. On 9/16/1996, ladies and gentlemen, this is 3 days after Tupac passed. Am I lying? 1200 hours a.m. Watch officers Jeter and Yamamoto were working a crime suppression detail to address gang activity problems at Death Row Records, 18730 Oxnard Street, Suite 211. Officer Jeter spoke with the head of security at Death Row, Reggie Wright, and was informed by Mr. Wright that since the death of Tupac Shakur, listen, Marion Suge Knight was now using gangsters, Bloods from Compton, as his own personal bodyguards, and that they were armed, ladies and gentlemen. This is 3 days after Tupac is dead. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. is ratting, is telling, is informing, was informed by Mr. Wright that since the death of Tupac Shakur, Marion Suge Knight was now using gangsters, Bloods from Compton, as his own personal bodyguards, and that they were armed. Officer Jeter was familiar with Knight's personal vehicle, which was there at the time, approximately 0500 hours. Jeters and Yamamoto observed 4 vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the guy who tried to take down that video that exposes him for lying about who was involved and when he knew about who was involved, right? That's right after the shooting. Listen, that's right after the shooting, ladies and gentlemen. This is 3 days after Tupac died. Hit the like button, y'all. Y'all got to share this, man. This is very important information. They're trying to silence the truth, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving you this straight game. You ain't gonna get it nowhere like this. They ain't giving it up to you like this nowhere else. I'm not talking about what I feel. I'm not talking about what I allegedly think. This is the information as it is. This is not about me telling you what I think. Listen, the conversation led to an attempted felony traffic stop of Suge Knight within hours. Right? Right? Leaving death row records in gang caravan fashion, the officer observed Suge Knight in the middle of the caravan. The officers attempted to stop Suge Knight, right? His vehicle, but were interfered in making it stop by the rear vehicle, a green Hummer driven by none other than MC Hammer, ladies and gentlemen. Subsequently, Hammer was questioned and released, warned only Knight and the rest of the gang caravan eluded police. Shout out to MC Hammer. I don't know if MC Hammer knew what he was doing at that time, or was he just stopping and thinking that, you know, they were pulling him over because he was probably the last vehicle in the caravan, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand. This is 3 days after Tupac's death. The video they tried to take down was Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. basically lying about when he knew 7 years ago, telling Gullible John on Bomb1st, right, about it. And then me basically doing the research that needed to be done, confirming and proving without any shadow of a doubt that he lied. This is the same guy that went to the grand jury, right? And said in the grand jury that he was mad that Frank Alexander did not, look, ladies and gentlemen, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. went to the grand jury involving Tupac's murder and told the grand jury that he was mad at Frank Alexander for not contacting him, right? For not contacting him and telling him what had happened after the situation, after the fight in Vegas, right? Ladies and gentlemen, if Frank Alexander didn't call him to contact him and tell him about the fight right after, then how in the hell did Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. call his father and tell him what happened right after? I'm asking questions that need to be answered, ladies and gentlemen. Each and every day, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. gets online and he talks about DJ Quick. He talks about Snoop Dogg. He talks about this person, that person, calling names and saying all of this old craziness. Ladies and gentlemen, these are facts. These are facts. And so, as I take you through this, and you understanding where I'm coming from when I say what I say, this right here, PVD, in the Metropolitan Detention Center right now says that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Basically was the mastermind. We know for a fact through Michael Moore, through Frank Alexander, through Tim Williams, that the security was pulled off of Tupac, ladies and gentlemen. We know that. We also know that Suge Knight said that he'd asked for 5 more security guards, and Reggie sent nobody. He said, Suge Knight said that it didn't have to happen that way, right? But Reggie pulled him off of him. This is not what I'm saying. This is actually what was said by the former head of Death Row Records, Suge Knight, y'all. So when we understand, and we know, and we're clear on what it is or what it isn't, and like I said, if it wasn't that powerful, why would they try to take this video down? Out of all of the videos I've ever made, ladies and gentlemen, like, you got to understand something. You know, you got people coming over here saying, "Man, this a Reggie hate channel." No, this is not. This is about truth and integrity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna say it again. This is about truth and integrity. They tried to take the video down, ladies and gentlemen. It did not work. The video is back up. Based on the counter notification that I filed in regards to fair use under the Copyright Act. You understand what I'm saying? So when we sit back and we understand, and I had to make this video, you know, so that you understand where I'm coming from in regards to this whole situation, right? You know, and so, and as I can really get into detail, and I can really get into detail, right? You know, Bomb1st and Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. did everything in their power, ladies and gentlemen, everything in their power to get this Tupac video taken down, right? You know the one. You know the one. I just showed you. You know the one, right? The one that exposed who was really there, who wasn't, right? Once again, getting the truth out, ladies and gentlemen. Basically just getting the truth out and keeping it 100. Keeping it 100. This, and look, this is not about clout chasing, you know, all of the other stuff that people like to do, you know, when dealing with this YouTube stuff. This is about facts. This is about facts. It's about nothing but facts, right? Having integrity, right? Having integrity and understanding what it is, where it is, and why it is what it is, right? So now, let's be clear, right? When you understand that, you say, well, what you mean, Delray? Well, here it is right here in front of your face, right? The moment, listen, look, the moment that footage went up, you know what I mean? This wasn't like, you know, you're not somebody randomly, you know, or the YouTube algorithm system, you know, randomly flag a video for copyright, you know, not being copyright compliant. My video, ladies and gentlemen, was targeted by Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John because of the information that it exposed, right? The moment the footage went up, right, showing the inconsistencies in Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. stories and Bomb1st being, you know, pushing it for years. It also showed Gullible John's a knowledge of Reggie's lies. He had to know. And if he, like I said, if he claimed that he didn't know before that time, he had to know then because it was right in front of his face. So he sat down and he watched the video. And then the video became a target, right? They've been pushing lies for years, right? The takedown request flew. Boom, you got to take that down, John, right? They didn't want y'all to see the receipts, ladies and gentlemen. See, I call a ball and a strike too. But when I call a ball, a strike and a strike, I got video or documented information to back up that call so that you know that I'm not just calling out some BS, ladies and gentlemen. So the same ones that show Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. wasn't with Suge Knight and Tupac when they got shot, and that the narrative that they've been spinning for all of these years is full of holes, ladies and gentlemen. It's full of lies. So when you, like I said, once again, you can sit back and believe what you want to believe. I don't care about that. I'm just going to give you the straight game. You can, people, well, it seems y'all need to grow up. I'm a grown ass man. I'm not, ain't nothing childish about what I'm doing, man. This is about facts over fiction, right? I ain't telling you what I feel. I ain't telling you what I think. I'm giving you the information as it applies to the situation, along with the documentation or video evidence. Like I said, if you don't believe what I'm saying, all you got to do is go watch the video that they tried to take down. And then you got to ask yourself, man, how damning that is. If I'm Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John, because you got to understand now, you know that Gullible John is complicit in pushing out the bullshit. Point blank, period. You know that what? This is what? In regards to right after Tupac was shot, the lies that were told. How did Reggie know about it? He has not explained that to anybody, but we know for a fact, in him not explaining it, that he has lied about it. When you watch this video, right? Then we go to the fact, and we go to the 3 days later, the 3 days after Tupac passed, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was at the, listen. And if you read, see, because I like to read between the lines. Like, some people read what's being said. I like to read what's not being said, ladies and gentlemen. So when you read this right here, you got to understand something. At the time, 3 days after Tupac's death, shook up probably. You know what I mean? He might was paranoid, sounding to me from what the information that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was giving to the police. Suge was kind of paranoid, so I guess he felt like he had to protect himself for whatever was about to happen that we did not know of. But we know that at that particular time, what Reggie was doing was giving information to the Los Angeles Police Department against his very boss, the guy that he had failed to protect approximately how many days later? How many days before? Right? Tupac got shot on the 7th. 9 days before? 9 days before, ladies and gentlemen. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had failed Tupac and Suge. But 3 days after Tupac's death, Reggie is talking to the LAPD and telling him that Suge Knight is now using gangsters, Bloods from Compton, on his as his personal bodyguards, and that they were armed. The man just was in the car next to Tupac after he was shot up, right? I don't know, some kind of paranoia or feeling like, he had to do what he had to do. But here was Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. calling the police, telling the police, yeah, he got his blood gang members as his personal bodyguards, and that they armed. Officer Jeter was familiar with Knight's personal vehicle, right? Which was there at the time. So Suge Knight and them are in the studio, and Reggie's outside talking to the police, telling the police that, yeah, Suge got, they got guns on him too. Because you can see, then they leave Death Row Records in the caravan. So the police was actually out there based on Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s information. The police was actually out there waiting on Suge and them because of the information that Reggie provided to them. Look, this convo led to an attempted felony traffic stop of Suge within hours, right? This is the same guy who 9 days earlier failed to protect the very guy he's now snitching on. Tupac is gone. I need Suge Knight out the way so I can possibly take over and run Death Row Records, or whatever the hell he was thinking. I can't even give you that, but I can only surmise as to what that is based on the fact that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has recently written some bogus ass pamphlet that he calls a book called the Tales of a Label Boss, if you will, right? You understand that? You understand that? And so now we have Keefy D once again saying this. So you can understand, I'm talking about facts. You can understand why one would think and say what they say about Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., but it's not just what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen. It's what's been exposed. It's what's been exposed. And because of this video right here, look, because of that, this video right here, you see it. They tried to take it down, but it didn't work. It didn't work, Gullible John. It didn't work, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. And like I said, what we have proved now beyond any shadow of a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, what we have proved now beyond any shadow of a doubt is that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was complicit in the death of Tupac Shakur. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was complicit in the attempted takedown of his former boss, Suge Knight. That is without a shadow of a doubt, ladies and gentlemen. You see the evidence. And then some people like to lend the argument or the conversation. Well, Reggie was a police. He wasn't the police at that time, but he was still working with the police against his own boss, against the guy who tried to help him out and gave him the job as head of security. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. would 1 minute brag about how much money he was making at death row and how much money, but at the same time, he's sitting out there. Look, he at the same time, with friends like this, you can't get no enemies. Look, at the same time, he's sitting out there telling the police, man, on Suge. Guy just got he just lost his #1 artist. You heard what Frank Alexander said. Frank Alexander said that when he went over to Suge's house directly after the situation, that Suge got a phone call from the hospital. And that Suge Knight, after he got off the phone, he threw the phone across the room and he started crying. He said, we can't do shit for him now because he dead. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was right there in Suge Knight's face, and he seen that hurt and he seen that disappointment on Suge Knight's face at that particular time. But approximately 3 days, y'all, 3 days after Tupac's death, in which Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was right there in front of Suge Knight's face when he got the news from the hospital and whoever called him on the phone, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was talking to the LAPD, not consoling his friend, not telling his friend everything gonna be all right, not saying, hey man, we gotta figure this out. He wasn't doing none of that. So all of this perpetration of friendship and camaraderie and loyalty for Suge Knight was just that. This was about self-preservation at that particular time, because evidently Suge Knight did not trust Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. to carry out his duties as the head of security no more. And Suge took it into his hands and his responsibilities to try to protect himself the way that he thought he should. And Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had a problem with that, and he went and told the LAPD. Not trying to console my friend. Not trying to, really try to find out what happened. And then, like I said, if you rewind it back and you're paying attention to what I'm telling you, and you rewind it back and you go back here, you're going to see why they tried to take my video down. Because it proves the ultimate lie was that first lie. When did he find out? He told Gullible John. 2-3 days later, 2-3 days later, I found out. But that was a lie. You watch this video right here, you're going to see it all revealed to you, ladies and gentlemen. They tried to take it down, but it's back up. And it's back up in accordance with what? In accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, right? We've completed processing your counter notification. The following video has been what? Restored. It has been restored. The truth has been restored, ladies and gentlemen. And so, like I said, once again, when I come to you, I'm not coming to you telling you what I feel, what I think, allegedly, right? And if it is something like that, I will say those words. But this right here does not need no alleging. It just needs your attention. Like I said, go look at the video. Go watch the video. But you got to understand, like I said, at the time that you would think that a friend who said that him and Suge grew up together, I was Suge's right-hand man. I actually got video of him actually saying, I was Suge's right-hand man at one time. How? Your right-hand man? Yeah, it will. Well, in the current times that we living in nowadays, you know, it's true. Your right-hand man would do this? He wouldn't be consoling you, concerned about your feelings, concerned about your mental state? Nah. He telling the police on you. He wants you to be locked up. He wants you to be removed after you just lost your #1 selling artist. And as a matter of fact, the #1 selling artist, ladies and gentlemen, in the world at that particular time. See, I need you to understand this, because another thing that people are not really gathering, you got to gather this information. We got to gather this information. When the situation came about with Frank Alexander, and this was so important because Frank was so smart, and he was smart enough to record the conversation that he had with Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. also went on YouTube and was telling YouTube channel, I forgot what channel it was. He was telling him, he was like, yeah, I just wanted Frank Alexander, you know, to go in front of the grand jury and talk to them in regards to the Suge Knight situation. I mean, and what he saw at the MGM Grand, right? And I wanted him to tell them that, you know, what happened and lie about the fact that he said Orlando Anderson tried to snatch Tupac's chain. It didn't happen. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, Reggie wasn't there. So you got to ask yourself again, how was he able to tell his father soon after who was involved? One lie. Telling his father, telling Gullible John 3 days later, but his father something different. One lie. Two lies. Trying to convince Frank Alexander to lie about the fact that Orlando tried to snatch his tank. That's two lies. One lie is about something that happened right after. The second lie is something that happened right after that. The third lie is him saying that Suge had told him who was involved. He needed somebody. Because he wasn't there, so he needed somebody to be able to tell him. Who told you? You say you was at Club 662, right? So it's lie after lie after lie. But the craziest part was this: when he said that about Frank Alexander recorded him. Y'all should have been up in arms about that right there. But nah, Reggie was there. He was with Suge. He was with Death Row at the time. You know, you know what I mean? Nah, he wasn't no Unc. He was a rat. You've seen it 3 days after. 3 days after, ladies and gentlemen, Tupac was gone. Gone. May he rest in peace. Reggie didn't give a damn. He didn't even give a damn about the guy who was still alive in the car with him. You know, be it bullets, be it glass, be it whatever, hit Suge. Like I said, I don't know that. Only Suge knows that, and the doctors that worked on him know that, right? Be it whatever it was. Reggie was talking to the LAPD at the studio while Suge was inside the studio. Suge inside the studio. Reggie outside the studio talked to the police. He probably told them, you know, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to talk to them and handle them, see what they're doing, you know. How the hell did he know they was out there? That's the key. How did he know that the police was out there waiting on Suge and them? No, seriously, think about it. Because see, you know, when you read this, right, you got to understand what it's actually saying, right? They saying that they were doing an investigation on the crime suppression detail, right? And gang activity problems at Death Row Records. This is what they were working on. And as they were working on it, the person that was supposed to be working with Death Row, for Death Row, the person who said this, listen, I want y'all to, because I'm going to take you back to the statement that he made, because you got to understand, the person who said this The person who said, it bothers me because I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man. You contrast that with this. You contrast that with this, you come out with a whole different understanding as to what it was. Point blank, period. Point blank, period, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot, once again, those are two actual factual statements. This is a true actual factual statement from the LAPD at that particular time, y'all. And like I said, police are doing their job. I don't have nothing against police officers. They're doing their job. They risk their lives, every day. And this is what they do. But like I said, once again, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. said, I was in charge of possibly protecting this young man. Look, come on, man. I need you to digest this information, right? That right there, right? Versus this right here. So what was he doing for Suge now? What was he protecting Suge too? He'll tell you, yeah, I was trying to protect Suge. He should have did that in Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, but he failed. He wants you to think that he's the hero. He wants you to think that he's the guy that ultimately solved the case involving the murder of Tupac Shakur. No, he didn't. Keefe D wrote a book, right? The person who actually facilitated and set Keefe D up with the interviews is allegedly Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Think about that for a minute, right? I showed you the other day that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was caught in bankruptcy fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. got on the internet and started responding to me in they actually posted something on their post in regards to me, right? And so I responded in kind, factually, about what the information was. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. responded and said, it wasn't, he said, listen, once again, this is who he is. It wasn't my bankruptcy I was involved in. He said it was Suge's bankruptcy. I already knew that. What I needed him to do was to come out and talk, because he loves to talk and he loves to be the center of attention. He did exactly what I needed him to do. And then he asked, well, what was the charge? What was the charge? The charge was bankruptcy fraud. He was trying to basically say that because it wasn't his bankruptcy, that it wasn't bankruptcy fraud. If it's involving a bankruptcy, taking and trying to put a building under another corporation pre-petition, prior to filing the bankruptcy petition, right? The bankruptcy trustee filed an adversary claim, basically calling it unjust enrichment. And Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., that was on April 3rd, 2007. 2007, if you will, right? And approximately 1 year and 11 days later, April 14th, 2008, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. does a proffer deal, allegedly involving the murder of the notorious B.I.G. And he put that out online. He put it online. But still being implicated by Keefe D in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Remember, Keefe D said, if I go to jail for the murder of Tupac Shakur, then Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. should go to jail for being involved in the murder of notorious B.I.G. Now, how would Keefe D know that? I did some digging, y'all. At the same time, in around about the same time, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., you know this. Greg Kading, you know this too. Like I said, I have nothing against Greg Kading. Greg Kading was a police officer at the time, doing his job, right? If they say don't commit the crime if you can't do the time. Don't be trying to blame people. Oh man, he did this, that, and the other. If I ain't there committing the crime, I ain't got to worry about nobody saying I was there. Talking about my business or nothing. But at around the same time that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was getting caught up for the bankruptcy thing. No, 2008 it was, and then 2009 he got the profit deal. My bad. Let me check that on the dates. It was April 3rd, 2008 that he got caught up in the bankruptcy fraud situation, and it was April 14th, right, 2009 that he agreed to go in and to do a proffer agreement, right? In and around that time, remember, Keefe D's proffer deal took place in 2008. And Keefe D subsequently did the interview with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in 2009. This is going to come out during the trial, ladies and gentlemen. So at around about the same time, I think that's why Keefe D said that. Because Keefe D knew what was going on. He was aware. Remember, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. can play buddies and play cool and play, like, y'all, man, yeah, he the homie. That's my friend. He from such and such. He from over there with these people and those people. But ladies and gentlemen, we see what he did to Suge Knight. Shit. You can't tell me, huh? What? Friend, you got to be kidding me. Come on, y'all. Am I lying? Or am I telling the truth? Look at it. So if he got, according to Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., I'm the one that set Keefe D up with Vlad in the interviews. I'm the one that lined him up. He even did a video and said he lined Keefe D up and set him up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why Keefe D said that. So do you understand? When people saying, well, Keefe D lying, he lying. No. Around about the same time, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. gets caught up in the bankruptcy fraud, 2008, April 3rd. Keefe D is, involved, we didn't know at the time, in having a proffer deal in around 2008 when Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. is getting caught up in the bankruptcy fraud. This is documented. These are dates, right? 2009, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. offers to do a proffer deal. He hemmed up in the bankruptcy, man. He hemmed up. $250,000 fine, 5 years, player. Can you handle the time? You did the crime. Can you handle the time? No, man, I want to go and cut an R&B album. I want to go sing. Right? See, all of the tough talk, all of that. Real men handle their responsibilities and take responsibility for their actions. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Right? So when one says what they say, be careful. When they talking tough and that ain't usually what happens when you get with them people. And then they're about to take your freedom away. They cut R&B albums, man. They start rapping and tapping. You know what I mean? They cut records, man. And so once again, when you understand what that is, you're going to understand that it's not even second nature, but first nature to try to take the video down. Try to take the video down. Go watch it. Go watch it. I had to come to you guys today once again because I think it's very important because integrity wins out all. Integrity. If you don't have no integrity, I don't care how much money you got. It don't matter. If you don't have no integrity, the money don't matter. Money comes and goes. You know what I mean? Like I said, one time they on the, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. on the internet talking about all the dialogue and, he was going to report all the dialogue to the IRS because all the dialogue don't pay his taxes. It was a lie. It was a lie. He didn't even know what he's talking about. But guess what? Well, come a couple of months later, we find out that Gullible John filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And guess what, y'all? He didn't even tell Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. They out here spewing out other people's business they don't know nothing about. But when it come time for them to spew out the business that they talking about somebody else, and they actually doing and following through with the actions that they talking about other people doing, they don't even talk about it. That's crazy. But guess what? That's bums first for you. So Gullible John, he knew about Reggie lying to him, and consistently, as a man, let him lie to him only for the bag, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I said integrity. Above all, you can have money come and go, man. I'm telling you, you could give me 10 dudes with integrity before you give me 10 dudes with $1 million and their integrity ain't shit. Because you don't know what they gonna do. I know these dudes. See, we can get some money with the 10 dudes that have integrity. We can get some money. We can come up with something. You know what I mean? Even if it's cutting grass and knocking on people's doors, and we got lawnmowers and we trying to cut some grass. We can start a lawnmower service or something, right? We gonna get some money. But them 10 dudes with $1 million, if you ain't got no integrity, I don't want to be with you, right? Because you don't think like real men think. They do anything, tell on anybody, because all they care about is the money. It's different. It's different when you like I said, when you understand those things, those principles, they're lost today now. Like I said, once again, listen, and I'm going to show you once again, because I have to repeat this so that you understand, ladies and gentlemen. This right here actually proves my point. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. said he was making big money with Suge, right? But his integrity wasn't shit. As a man, he failed Suge and Tupac in Vegas, and then 3 days after Tupac's death, he's informing to the LAPD about Suge Knight. This is what I'm talking about. This proves the point that I'm trying to make right now. You can have all the money in the world. If you're dealing with people with no character and low integrity, it don't mean shit. It don't. It don't. Because if the money run out, you know what I mean? You have a fall, something happen, you know what I mean? Man, they gone. And you seen what happened. You see right now, we looking at it right now, each and day on the internet. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. talks about Suge Knight's business. Talking about, yeah, he gave Maya venereal disease. Yeah, he got this, he got that. I'm talking about personal shit that you would never think nobody would talk about. This is what he's done. And then come back and be like, you know what, I ain't even talking about Suge today. You know, we kind of made up. Nah, I ain't what I'm thinking. I ain't what I'm hearing over on the Art of Dialogue. Suge basically now is coming out stating the truth and the facts of the matter. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. never ran death row. Michelle A. ran death row while Suge Knight was in prison. Suge Knight said he had a conversation with Keefe E.D. at the Staples Center. He told him that, hey, you know what? The security was involved with the situation. It was a setup, allegedly. This is what Suge Knight said his conversation in regards to what Keefe E.D. told him. I told you clearly, I don't believe everything that Suge Knight say. And that's not to say anything bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, once again, but I'm going to do the research necessary to corroborate what's being said. Like I said, Keefe E.D. stated that, yeah, him and Suge Knight did meet at the Staples Center. Lakers versus New Jersey Nets game. Said it on Vlad TV. So once again, understand that. Understand that. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through today. Sorry about the microphone issue earlier, but we got that down pat. Like I said, I appreciate each and every one of you in the chat for coming and taking the time out to listen to this powerful information. Because that's what it is. It's powerful information, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be sidetracked with the bullshit. Do not get sidetracked with the side conversations. Sometimes they may be funny and entertaining, right? But the truth is what you need to be able to understand what it is that you're dealing with. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. See, Jay Franklin, I see you in the chat, right? Who's that? Professor Bay, Nikki Reynolds, Fantasy Bambi, what's good? Who else? Said Arnold Hip Hop 90s. Rodney Luno. Is that Luno? Yeah, Rodney Luno. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, take this. Like I said, the video's back up. ladies and gentlemen. They tried to, like I said, they tried to silence the video. The video is back up. The video is back up, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, by the grace of God and the knowledge of the copyright industry and the business of copyright, the video's back up that they tried to take down. Look at the title, go watch the video. And like I said, do not let anybody persuade you or try to tell you or convince you of something based on because somebody else told you, yeah, that they were there, right? And they weren't really there. A lot of the information, and just like I said, once again, a lot of the information in regards to Harry O and other people like that, Reggie and them have been disseminating throughout the internet. It's like I said, it's unfounded. It's unfounded. Once again, when you think about what you're talking about, if they're not presenting it with any kind of evidence or knowledge about that, usually it's a lie. And they're doing it for clout and clicks and all of these other things that they do it for. Like I said, Fatima Barrett in the building. What's up, Fatima? Always a pleasure. Who's that up? We got Serpent, Mr. KZ, giving shout outs. Trafficking Art. Who else? Ross Munger. Ulo Fash. Ivan Ooze, I'm sorry. Scott Sweeney in the building. Who else? Jay Franklin once again. Like I said, I like to give a shout out to all of the people who are also outside of the chat who have not decided whether they wanted to subscribe to Straight Game TV, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I appreciate each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. Your boy Delray, Straight Game.
They said Tupac was untouchable, but behind the walls of Rikers Island, he was just a man, wounded, watching his back, and wondering who he could trust. He survived bullets, betrayal, and isolation behind bars. But what happened inside those walls has never been told until now. In the darkest corner of Rikers, he found betrayal and a brotherhood no one saw coming. These dudes smiled in my face, then flipped and tried to kill me, and I never saw it coming. They were Puff's security, Biggie's muscle, Henchman's people, and Tupac knew exactly who sent them. This is the side of Tupac Shakur the world never got to see, told by the man who lived it with him, not in the studio, but in a 6x9 cell. The rap battles, sex and drama with female guards, the tears, the silence after Jada Pinkett's visit, and the moment Tupac almost broke. Before Death Row, before All Eyes on Me, before Machiavelli, there was Rikers. Behind the Walls with Tupac Shakur, available now on Amazon. Get your copy. Learn the truth.